In this episode, we're joined by HUD Consultant Bob Canty to unpack 203K loans. With a growing inventory of aging homes, Bob will explain why the 203K loan program isn't just necessary, but vital for home repairs and alterations. He'll discuss the importance of full home inspections and the pivotal role of choosing a strong contractor. From a HUD consultant's view, we'll talk about the thorough checks needed to protect everyone involved in the loan process. Bob will share how he breaks down renovation costs for FHA loans and the importance of clear communication in this intricate process. Lastly, we'll discuss the HUD consultant's role in managing conflicts and ensuring smooth sailing for your renovation projects.
What are some of the common pitfalls that you see people run into when they're getting a 203K loan?
When they talk to their lender, they don't get all the information they should get.
Is that part of a HUD consultant's role to do dispute resolution?
I think so. The biggest problem I have with the contractor's quotes is that they send me one with build house, $300,000. Well, so I'm going to give you $10 for the foundation, $20 for the framing, and the trim at the end, I'm going to give you the $250, whatever. No, that doesn't work. We need to break down labor materials for all the individual product.
All right, welcome to this episode of the Construction Lending Podcast, and you're listening to Sean Ferris with Land Gorilla, and we have a guest on this podcast today, Bob Canty, and Bob is a registered HUD consultant, has been doing this since, what year was it, Bob?
1991 I started.
Wow, 1991. And here's, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, to kind of help paint a visual picture, when Bob got on video here, the first thing that came to my mind is, here's a guy with a better beard than I have. And man, am I jealous of that beard. It's great. It is absolutely great.
It's starting to get white now. It used to be red.
Well, I got a little of the salt and pepper action coming through. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but there's some gray hairs coming in. It's 203K loans that give me the gray hair. What about you?
Tell me about it.
Well, this is great. You're the first HUD consultant we've ever had on the podcast, and I want to thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
We've had some great episodes. We just did one with a independent fee inspector, and we've had a lot of requests come in like, hey, you need to get a consultant on there. And our audience is traditionally construction lenders or people in the construction lending industry, and I think it's a great addition to learn a little bit about other people that are in this business, and what their journey's been and what kind of roles HUD consultants play out there. Maybe we'll start there.
Sure.
Why don't you kind of give me a little bit of your history and how you got to be a HUD consultant?
Well, actually, it started in 91. I was a builder before I became a HUD consultant. And I was doing a job for a gentleman here in West Haven that started a mortgage company. I was a mortgage broker. And he came to me one day and he said, I need a HUD consultant. I said, yeah, sure. No problem. Yeah, I gotta go back to work. I got stuff to do, So one day I was estimating a project in my office here, and he knocked at my door. And it was a rainy day, and he just came in and we talked, and I said, I'll give it a shot. So that's how it started. I did that part-time for a while, and seemed to be pretty lucrative. So little by little, I got out of the construction business and started doing this full-time, got all my employees jobs with somebody else, other guys that I knew, and started pushing on this.
Wow. Since 91, that's a lot of handbook changes and lender letters and, things. What have you seen as far as changes with the program, the 203K loan program since 91?
Well, actually, there's a couple of things that are probably the stand out more than anything else. Before they're a little more strict as far as when they first started. Now they release funds up front, which they never did before. The projects are larger now in dollar amounts than they were in the past. They did change a few things, some of the, like before it was just to repair a pool. now you can do more than just repair,
Mhm.
you know? So there's a few items that w that made a difference in the program. I think it made it better, actually,
Yeah,
you know?
wow, that's I think in the when we're recording this video, if or this podcast, as those that are listening, we're in a period of time where earlier in 2023, we're at the beginning of 2024 right now, but in early 23, HUD put out a request to the public, to ask for feedback in the 203K loan program, and they wanted to see some growth, and just ask the public. Which when HUD asks the public, it really means, hey, we're asking HUD consultants, we're asking lenders, we're asking borrowers, contractors, housing advocacy groups, everybody around the table, what could they be doing better? Would they took the time to compile a lot of that feedback and recently provided about, I think, six suggestions that were on the table. Everything from raising some of the fees to help accommodate, some inflation and price increases that have happened, over the period of time, to greater amounts for upfront deposits, longer periods of time where people don't have to occupy the home but can get the repairs done, and some of those other things. Have you know have you had a chance to look at those suggestions that are on the table right now with
Actually, I
HUD,
have
Bob?
not. I'll be
Okay.
honest with you, I have not. Um,
Well, here's a good question then. What are some of the common pitfalls that you see people run into when they're getting a 203K loan?
I actually, the start from the beginning is that
Mhm,
when they usually talk to their lender or their broker, lender, whoever they're dealing with, uh, they don't get all the information they should get, I believe, for
mhm.
the 203K. A lot of them will say, well, we're doing a 203K. They say, well, give Bob a call. They don't explain the whole process, what goes on. So I end up kind of explaining how it works, where we start, the process in doing the report and getting the write-up completed, and then after the fact, the draws and the reserve and all those other items that come up and whatever. And they just then I have to inform them that I funny part is that they never tell them I collect a fee, you know? So that's kind of a shock to them. They think, "Yeah, well, it's built into the loan." Well, yeah, but, we get an upfront money to start with, you know? That's what I do anyhow. Um
Gotcha. So, the upfront work before the loan closes, if I don't know anything about a 203K loan, or, I'm interested in getting into 203K lending, there's certain requirements before the loan closes that need to happen. And those
Sure.
requirements are what?
Well, they have to qualify, number
Hmm.
1. They use their debt, their asset, that's from a lender's point of view.
Hmm.
They have to qualify, and the house has to appraise out. Those are the things that I deal with. I'm sure the lender has more information. They need bank statements, all that good stuff, and which I'm not a lender, so I try to let the lender do their job if possible, and then, I inform them of, on my end, what they're gonna need to do, whether they need see, I get some of them that come with me with a quote from a contractor,
Hmm.
but that contractor is bidding what the client wants, more or less.
I want a new roof, and I want a new kitchen and
Right, in the bathroom, but they
a
don't
new
take
bathroom.
chipped and peel, they don't deal with the things that FHA requires.
Ah,
Handrails, smoke detectors, broken windows, you gotta have heat in every room, I get that some of them don't have heat in all the rooms, and
rain gutters.
yeah, you gotta have leaders and gutters, you gotta have that, and they go, "Why?" I said, "Well, that's the HUD that's a FHA rule, These are things you have to have." So, what I do if I take that quote, then when I go out to meet the client, to walk through the property before I prepare the write-up, at that point, I point out all the things that have to be done.
Mhm.
Add those to the report, send those out to the lender, I mean, I'm sorry, to the, contractor, the homeowner, so he can rebid those parts of the project, what and so we can finalize the paperwork. A lot of times, excuse me, a lot of times I'll, um, I'll do the work right before I get I'll do an estimate for them before
Mhm.
they get sometimes the contractor will stay with my numbers, sometimes he'll increase or change the numbers. That's up. So I always send the client, if I'm doing my own write up, without the write up from the contractor or the quote from the contractor,
Mhm.
I always send the client the information first and they can deal with it with the contractor. I'll send them one with numbers and one without numbers.
Mhm.
Then the contractor can fill out that as 1 through 35. Magic 35
The
numbers,
magic 35 item
you
budget.
know? And then he'll fill in. I do it on an Excel. I put it into an Excel spreadsheet for him. So if they're computer savvy, they can just expand it, whatever they have to do, and put all the information in the individual line items to cover what they're doing. The
Got
biggest problem I have with the contractor's quotes is that they send me one with, build house, 300,000.
it.
Well, so I'm gonna give you $10 for the foundation, $20 for the framing, and the trim at the end, I'm gonna give you the 250, whatever. No, that doesn't work. We need to break down labor materials for all the individual product. If they get me in close, I'll break it out more to match their numbers, and then I'll send it to them to agree with it or not agree with it. So the end number is the same. I might have to tweak some things that they didn't break out. And
Mhm.
then they accept it or don't accept it or make their changes. Then I go back in and make the changes for the lender. And that's what the package we send to the lender for closing.
Got it. So it seems like, A, the traditional underwriting, all of that still applies.
Correct.
Traditional, got to jump through all those hoops. And hey, I've identified in this house, I'd really love to do some improvements. And they suggest the 203K loan. Call Bob, right? That's step two. Call Bob.
That's how it
And
works.
Bob comes out, and if I already have my contractor, great. If I don't have my contractor, you're going to help me put together a list of all the must haves and all the things that I want, right? And you're going to kind of be the uh,
Correct.
my guide along that process.
Right. Then
And
I'll label those mandatory, desired, and recommended,
mhm,
so they know the mandatories are in there.
if I don't have a contractor, I'm going to use that as a guide to go out and shop for contractors and look for some good ones.
Correct.
And if I already have my contractor, they're going to go revise theirs to make sure that the peeling paint is addressed, or the hot water heater is double strapped here in California. I know that's a good one. All the things that must have in order for FHA financing are also included, right?
Correct.
Get all that nice packaged up, goes back to the lender. Lender makes sure that the appraiser, identifies, hey, here's all the work that's subject to, it's included in the value of the price, maximum mortgage worksheet, and all the other special paperwork's filled out, and they close my loan.
Correct.
Now the fun start.
Now
Fun start happens.
now that's when I have all the fun because the lender doesn't care anymore. They close the loan. You know, all they want to know is when they're going to be done. So yeah, now the fun starts.
Does anybody forget to call and tell you like, hey, the loan closed? Or do you just
Correct.
get a surprise?
All the time. I never know. I never know when they close. Nobody tells me when they close.
Nobody
The
ever
only
tells
time I
you.
know it closes because they call me up. They want either to process some upfront money. Some lenders will send me an email saying the loan is closed. They CC me on what they're sending the
Mhm.
client. So that's been getting better. On the email. I just got to check my emails. Nobody calls me, but I'll get an email. So at least I'm in there, so I know it closed. Um, and then they'll usually wait until they want money. And that's when we start getting funny
Yeah.
sometimes.
So there are scenarios where you get a phone call, hey, I'm ready for my first draw. You're like, oh, congratulations on closing that loan. This is the first I've heard.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you got to call the lender and ask, hey, did you advance any money at closing
Yep.
for that's a new one, right? That's a
Yep. And they
big
say, oh
important
yeah,
piece.
we gave them 15,000 or whatever. They gave
Mhm.
whatever they gave. And I gotta go, okay, is that a percentage of the materials? Did you pick a line item? Oh, no, just took a percentage of the materials, and then I have to figure that out.
And how do you figure that out? Hey, we gave them 15,000. You got 35 items in this, and there's things that are packaged and buried within each one of those categories. How do you decide
Well,
what?
I have to take it from I look at the project and I'll take it
Mhm,
from the top, and I'll do start to break down if it's a percentage of the materials up to X amount of dollars, 50,000, 25,000, 50, whatever it might be. And then I'll start at some area and I'll take a percentage of goes, so I get to the number that's 15,000 or
Mhm.
25,000, whatever it might be. So then I create that draw and then I start from there. So I apply it to what I think I should.
Yeah, no,
If I
that
ask
that
the lender, I'll ask the lender say, well, just apply it to whatever you think. Okay. You know, so they
uh,
don't, as long as they know what they did it.
yeah, and I think this, we'll go ahead and pause, because this is one of the areas where HUD is suggesting making some changes and increasing the allowable amount. I think it's like 75% of the material cost can
Okay.
now be advanced up front. And I was sitting in a round table with a nice group of people talking about that, and you could have heard a pin drop when we reviewed that suggestion. And this is an audience mainly of people that are managing these loans, so people that administer the loans from the lender's
Right.
perspective. And then they're all hand to face kind of
Right.
movements going.
They're a little afraid.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, and before this, we recorded this podcast. I mean, you got to talk a little bit about that, about hey, just giving the contractor, and some of these renovations are hundreds of thousands of dollars now, but giving the
Yep.
contractor a check up front, unaccounted for, hey, here's 15,000, here's $50,000 for material supplies, without making the payment directly to the supplier, that has some risk.
Right.
You know,
See, a
where do
lot
you?
of times the supplier doesn't want to fill out all the paperwork.
Mhm,
They got to be, they become a vendor. The vendor becomes just like the contractor. They have to fill everything out with their tax ID and to be able to accept that check. So a
mm,
lot of times the vendor's going to go, you know what? I don't want to do all the paperwork. You want to buy the cabins, buy the cab. So that's why the vendor prefers the contractor getting the money. But on the other hand, it's a little scary because they have all these funds and they'll spend it all up front. They'll be looking for money, and then there's no money to give them at some point. It's
mhm.
just it gets difficult to manage the dollars, is what it does when you get
Yeah, and then people fall out of love, right? It's the borrower doesn't like their contractor anymore, and they want to fire him. It's like, well, hey, man, they've got $50,000, for material deposits, and how are you
and
going to get
they
that back?
right. How do you, yeah, you don't get it back. They're gone. They took the money, they spent it.
Well, what's the and maybe this is the example that we can use. Do you get sucked into a lot of those conversations, or hey, Bob, can you go fix this thing? They're having some issues out here. Is that
Oh
is
yeah,
that where you get
we
involved?
got problems. I need you to come out. So it's not a draw, but I have to go out, and I have to like manage it. So because I then technically working when you do the draw, when you're doing the write up, I'm working for the homeowner. When you do the draws, you're working for the lender. So I have to kind of monitor it and be the buffer in between the homeowner and the contractor, try to resolve the problem if possible. And before it goes to hell.
Yeah, how do you explain what your role is to the audience? It sounds like there's almost like a balance. Like, hey, I have this relationship with HUD, right? I have this relationship with the lender. I have this relationship with the borrower, and then there's also this contractor. I gotta make sure understands what's going on and keep him
I
motivated to
need to
go.
have some kind of relationship with him too, because I'm the one that's going to give him his money if he's produced the product,
Mhm,
if he's done the work. So I have to balance working for the lender. I have to balance what the contractor deserves,
mhm,
and the homeowner has to be happy with it.
mhm.
It's a fine balance because the homeowner go, well, he put the window in, but it doesn't close right, or I feel a draft, or I don't want to pay him, for the windows. He did a lousy job, and then I have to try and say, well, you got to fix it, or look at it and see what I think. The windows are the windows. I think they're done right. It's all insulated. And where do you see the draft? Well,
I,
on a
I,
windy day when the wind's 100 miles an hour, I could. Well, of course, okay, that's unreasonable. So it's a fine balance.
I don't like the color of the paint that I picked out, or it looks a
Correct.
little bit different. It's not the same color I picked out.
I picked
It's
correct.
and you get sucked into all of those. The lender looks to you to, hey, go solve this for me. The borrower is like, Put you right in the middle of all that.
I'm always the lender will call me first if the or the homeowner will call the lender to complain, and the lender will call me to go take a look at it and try to figure it out.
Mhm. Is that part of a HUD consultant's role to do dispute
Well,
resolution?
I think so.
Mhm,
I have a HUD consultant here in the area, um, that manages the whole job. He
mhm.
hires the guys. I go, "You can't do that," I tell him. You're not the contractor. You're not the one that finds the mason or the you know, because you can have up to 3 separate contractors, and he's
Yep.
the one that's going out to hire these, and that's not my his our job. Our job is to try and manage the funds for whoever the homeowner chooses to be the contractor. And then you gotta be on top of it. I mean, you gotta stay with them, And
What
I've had some horror shows, some things that really just can't be solved. You know?
what are the common themes, when people start to run into a little bit of trouble, and say I'm the borrower here, when I start to run into a little bit of trouble on my project, what are the themes that you see as a HUD consultant that start to develop? Is it,
I think a
work?
lot of it's miscommunication
Mhm,
between a contractor. Oh, let's start with the beginning. I think they don't vet the contractor properly.
mhm.
This guy was recommended by my cousin Tony, who he's a roofer, but now you're doing a kitchen, so maybe he's not qualified, He's got the
Who's
license and everything, but where's the knowledge,
Are you
That's where
saying
you
that the
start.
lender doesn't vet the contractor or the homeowner doesn't
They
vet the
do. Well,
contractor?
the homeowner,
Mhm,
the lender makes sure he's licensed and insured,
mhm,
and he's been in business for at least a year or two.
mhm.
Now, anybody get a remodeler's license. Roofer has a remodeler's license. Maybe they're roofing and siding, but they never did a kitchen before, but now they're involved in a kitchen. They want to do a bigger project. So they don't know what they're doing. There's some I get that sometimes, where it's just the wrong man for the job.
Wrong man for the job.
Mm.
What do you advise? Like, if I haven't picked my contractor yet, and what kind of advice would you give to a homeowner that they don't know? It's not like they do
Right.
renovations every day. How do they? How are they
I
supposed to
tell
know?
them a couple things. You can go to the building department.
Hmm.
See who the building department knows in the area that's a decent contractor. They've done inspections on this project. They know what it's called. Talk to them. They're happy to talk to you. They're not nasty people, unless you're a contractor. But then there's supply house, who they work with, who pays their bills on time. That's a couple areas they can go, the people can go to find a reliable contractor for what to do.
What other things do you think that are kind of common themes? The wrong person for the job. You really penciled that one out pretty well. What are some of the other things? Is there ever, hey, they're
I
doing
think
the wrong work or
Well, I think the contract, some of them are doing have the improper bidding.
Mhm,
There's always that, we mentioned there's that reserve money when we have the bank. If there's at least a 10% reserve, 15 to 20, depending, 15 if the mechanicals aren't on. Um,
contingency?
and that contract is assuming that money is theirs. So he might underbid the project knowing he's going to use that reserve for any overages
They
going
they
into the
they
project.
they
Rather than
lock onto
saying,
that money. It's theirs.
right, so they're figuring out, well, I can just cut this by a little bit because the homeowner wants a better deal. So they tend to underbid their end of it, knowing they're gonna use the reserve money to cover the difference.
Mm.
I've run into that more than once, Um, and again, it's communication between the homeowner and the contractor. They gotta constantly be in touch with each other and talk about things, just like the color on the paint. You do the test first before you go out and buy 5 gallons, before you paint the thing. You're not there for 2 weeks, or you go on a vacation, you come back and that's not what I wanted. I wanted a green countertop. I didn't want the white, so it's communication between the both of them that's very important to keep the project moving along smoothly, I
What
believe.
what about changes to the scope of work? You see a lot of people like just jump the gun and like, hey, we're gonna get rid of this bathroom that we're gonna put in and put that
Right.
money over here and not
I
tell you.
get it all the time, where we're going to do a laminate floor in the kitchen, and all of a sudden they're putting down ceramic tile. It's just more money, and they go, well, we'll just go into reserve to pay the difference. But they do it without asking permission.
Mm,
Technically, they're supposed to request the lender to use the reserve money to upgrade. If it's an upgrade, they have to request it, and they don't do that. It's done. I go out and the job is all done already. Now they want the money. Well, it's not in my scope of work. How are we going to do this? Or
how
we
do you
ran
solve
out of
that?
reserve.
How did you solve that particular? They go out. It's like, hey, there's $5,000 in this line item. They spent 10. We want to draw from our contingency. It's our money.
Right. Depends how much is left on the project. I might tell them, you know what, I'll give it to you toward at the end. If there's any money left, we didn't have any more surprises. We'll apply it at the end of the project. We'll pay the difference out of reserve. If there's any money left in reserve, as long as there is no surprises during the course of the rest of the project. Well, I want the money now. Well, you're not going to get it. I'll give you the 5,000, but that's all you're going to get.
I love the tough love.
Well, you have to do it. You try
Mhm.
and make it work, but it sometimes depends if they're close to the end of the project, almost done, and they upgraded to the tile, and I got all the reserve money. Okay, I got no problem. I don't see any surprise. I don't foresee any surprises.
Mhm.
You know,
Do you ever have you give them the tough love, and then do they go uh, complaining back to the lender? Hey, I don't want to work with this Bob guy. He's not letting me have my money.
one time,
One time,
one time in 30 years. Usually they go, okay, I'll wait.
you seem like a nice guy. It's like,
You look like Santa Claus.
yeah, I will in about 10 years. You know, uh, Oh, that's interesting. Anything else that you'd like to add to that? What are some of the other common pitfalls that you see? Cost overages, people
Well,
walking
a
off
lot
the
of it's
job. What?
people working outside the scope of work. I have one where a story I'll tell you where we did a job where we bid the project. It was like it's a two-family house, a three-family. We were renovating it, and we were doing the roof and whatever. And we had I think it was $130,000 worth of work that had to be done. And before it closed, the homeowner calls me on the phone and says, "Listen, I just want to do the mandatories. I'll take care of everything else. As long as you do the qualify for FHA, do all the mandatory stuff." I said, "Okay." Well, I brought it down to like 80,000 or 75,000. And I package it all up. I send one to the builder, one to the homeowner. I have one, so one to the lender. So we all have one. Everybody signs the documents, gives it to the lender. They close on the loan for the mandatories. The builder didn't read the second one,
Ooh,
the one for 70,000. He just looked at the first two pages, which were the same, and the same amount of pages. The first two items were the same, so he assumed it was the same thing to re-sign. Now he works off the original one.
no.
He works off the one that we didn't close on. I
And
go out
nobody
looking for the
and nobody
job,
says like, hey, I don't, no, you
and
don't.
he's
What are you
thirty
doing over
thousand
here?
dollars over. And I'm going, I don't have 30,000 to give you. I don't give you this, the bathroom, this, and this. This, and that. Well, like it says right here, I said, you're working off the wrong sheet. Didn't you read the one you signed for that went to closing? Well, I looked at it real quick. I didn't read it. So, so that one's still pending right now.
Wow, that's
Now the homeowner's mad at him because he wants all this extra money, so he fires him.
oh,
And at the same time, he fired me. I don't want you on my
oh,
pocket. 2 weeks later, he's on the phone. Bob, can you come out and do a closeout for this building? The lender wants me to. And we're friends again, the homeowner. But, you know, he still fired the guy. Now we're still in limbo with that. I don't know what's going on with that one yet. So
oh, that's
the new contractor hasn't started yet. We didn't close out the other one yet. The lender hasn't. I don't know what the lender's doing. So
that's got to be up there.
So it's a nightmare. I have
Oh,
another one where I tell you the guy did the tile instead of the laminate. He did the bathrooms. We were supposed to put in a toilet, a vanity, and a new tub. Well, the homeowner decided he wanted to move the toilet from left to right, and he wanted to take instead of the tub, he did a shower. So I go out there to release some. They gutted both bathrooms and had to replace all the drains, all the water lines, all the way to the basement. Complete renovation of the bathrooms. I said, we're not supposed to do this. So now we're trying to move some money that's desired into reserve and take it out of reserve to pay for these things he wanted. And the homeowner says to me, "It's my money. I can do what I want with it." And
Oh,
and
that's
I went, Technically, no, you can't. You have to stay with the scope of work. Once
oh,
I'm gone, I don't care if you tear the house down. I mean, that's none of my business after that. But you got to stay with the scope of work to complete what FHA is requiring here. You do.
it's like change order Tetris, right? It's like,
We
oh man,
ended
we
up
got to go
we
start robbing from Paul
we
to
ended
pay
up
Peter over
closing
here.
that one, but he says he's owed a lot more money to the builder. I haven't heard from anybody since. We closed it out. We signed the letter of completion. We closed the loan out as far as the lender's concerned, but I still think there's something gonna
How
evolve
about
there.
that one? Well, I mean, it sounds like, if I had to recap everything, it sounds like communication is extremely important between
Very.
the
That's why I
borrower,
suggest,
contractor.
even with me, stay on
Yeah.
top of it. Before the contractor doesn't work, give me a call. Tell me this is what the homeowner wants me to do, but it's not in the scope of work. Talk to me. I'm here to help you as best I can. I want it to go smooth. I don't want these headaches. You know?
Oh, what kind of advice, that if communication is important between you, the contractor, the borrower, what kind of, what do successful, you have to see the difference between like successful lenders with the program and those
Correct.
that really struggle with it. What are some of the key differences between the two?
Besides communication is the proper contractor. He's got
Mm,
to be strong. He's not, he can't be a little guy that has no money. That's where they get this money up front all the time, and they don't know how to manage it.
mhm,
So it's the proper contractor is probably the second most thing besides communication.
mm.
It's the second most important thing. The right contractor. You have to know what he's doing. He has to be strong. He has to be able to fund the project technically.
If I'm a construction lender, right, and I'm offering this program, what are the things that I should be doing aside from checking the licensing and the insurance, and they've been in business for 2 years and they're not on the OFAC list? What are the things that I should be doing just to make sure and to get confident that the borrower, who doesn't do this every day, has
Right.
actually picked somebody that's going to complete the project? If I'm on the hook as the lender at the end of the day,
Right.
right,
You know,
what do I want to do?
I think that the contractor should supply the lender with more information before they close.
Mhm,
In other words, tell them what you did. I did an addition. I did the kitchen. I work for so, just on the resume, they have, I work for so and so, this address, this phone number, and I did a kitchen for
mhm.
1912 or whatever. And then the beside the rest, the lender should follow up on those.
Check references.
Check it, double
Yeah,
check
check.
it, check it. Make sure he did it. So now it tells the lender that, all right, he's done a kitchen, he's done an addition, he's not just a roofer. So at least they know that he's knowledgeable of what he's done, what he's
Mhm.
doing, I should say. That's
How
one thing they should do.
Yeah, no, that's important to know. So what do you think leads a lot of borrowers to choose the wrong contractor? What is it that, I just keep thinking of this persona. It's like, I don't know who to pick. This guy's a roofing contractor. My neighbor referred him, or, I know, yeah, this guy plays soccer, kid plays
Right.
soccer with mine. Like,
Together, and he's a builder, right? We run the soccer. The kids are on the soccer team together. That's where
yeah,
they have to. It's hard, and he's got to be. You want somebody that's been in business for a long time, not
mhm,
started last year. You know, he's got to have some record behind him, some knowledge behind him. And it's hard to do. I mean, I can't tell him not to pick that contractor. You know, um, you could have a contractor that I had one where the guy was a great guy, and he did a bunch of good jobs, a few jobs for me, very good. And he did the third one. Apparently, he got divorced
mm,
and went to the juice. He was a bum. He took the
ouch.
money and ran. That's but he was a good guy. So to be honest, you just don't know. It's really hard.
Mm,
I mean, overall, I probably 85, 90% of my jobs are wonderful. There's only that 10% that that goes bad, and that's 30 years. That's a pretty good record, actually.
Is there
Not
any?
that
Yeah,
many
no,
of them
that's
have.
that's great. That's a
So
winning season.
Yeah, I mean, I have, and I have some I've used multiple times.
Mhm,
I do tend to give a homeowner a list of 3 or 4 contractors that I've worked with that at the time they did a wonderful job. That's how I explain it to them.
mhm,
Yeah, I haven't seen him in 6 months, a year. I don't know how he is today, but they've done good work and they're insured, the license, and they did a job in a timely fashion. They completed the project. So try one of these guys, give them a call and see what you think.
mhm,
I do that sometimes.
hmm. Yeah, that's a especially you gotta, your heart goes out to a borrower that gets in a bad situation. It's like, oh man, you just got the just picked the wrong contractor here, and it sounds
You
like
got
you
big time, yeah.
try to help them out. Well,
You try, you try, you do all you can to keep them going.
what's the renovation business like right now for HUD consultants? You know,
Slow,
you, slow.
slow. The problem we're having right now is there's the two things. One, the rate is a little bit higher.
Hmm.
A little freaked out about that. I find the younger families can't afford to buy right now.
Hmm.
What's on the market, they're asking big dollars. And I don't know, Connecticut's close to New York. You put a house on the market, there's a bidding war. You want 300,000 for it, people offer you three and a quarter, 350, and it keeps going. So the prices are way high. People are in the bidding war for what's on the market, and there's not much on the market. I don't see much foreclosures anymore right now. I think that maybe the lenders are holding off on foreclosing to flood the market or something because you used to see them in the paper all the time. Foreclosure, we don't see them much anymore.
Everybody's got a great interest rate. It's easy to make a
Yeah. So
two
I
and a
got
half percent hit.
a lot of my business now is remodeling.
Hmm,
The homeowner's refinancing. We're doing refis instead of purchases.
interesting.
Purchases are down, refis are up. People are borrowing the money to repair what they have because they can't move.
Interesting. Well,
They
what do
get
you see happening? As we we're expected to see some interest rate changes this year, small, maybe quarter point a couple times,
Mhm.
and a lot more next year is what's being forecasted. So, what do you think needs to happen with interest rates to see more traction in the 203K loan program?
They got to come down. Actually, we got to bring them down if possible. The rates, and then again, it's product. People are getting a lot of money for what they have. It's just the market. Since COVID, everybody got out of New York and came in here and bought everything they could see. So and that level didn't drop. It stayed there. The housing dollars stayed up high. So
W- it sounds like there's some markets that the 203K program does really, really well in. And then there's some markets where maybe it's a seller's market where everything's really tight and rates are good and there's a lot of activity. What
I think right now the rates for sellers, the rates they're people are selling their houses if they want to sell,
Mhm.
and they're selling it for more than they're asking in Connecticut right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy, but there's not a lot of product out there. You used to see for sale signs all over the place, and now it's rare to see one in front of a house. I mean, I go for blocks and blocks, and there's nothing for sale. Now I live down by the water, so it's a popular area,
Mhm.
but it's there's nothing for sale anymore.
It's just
People,
hard to give up that great interest rate and then take the
yeah,
step up. Even if they get into the low fives, it's hard to go from 3 to 5, is a big payment difference. And if you're
right.
trying to move up, hopefully there hasn't been much appreciation, but
And then again, if they get big dollars for their house, where are they going to go? They got to spend
mhm,
a lot more money. If they get three for theirs, where they're going to go is going to be four because they want something
mhm,
better to have. So just for the younger couples, it's very difficult right now to
mhm.
find product.
Do you think, as interest rates come down, I think we'll see, a little bit more activity start to happen. Affordability comes into play, but then also prices are going to start going up, as interest rates start going down, and
Right.
create that divide.
But
And
again, there is a level that it's got to stop at. I mean, it can't get $1 million for a house that's worth 200,000.
I live in California, so I haven't seen a $200,000 house
I
probably
understand,
for
right?
20 years.
Well, they're out there. If you not 200,000, but you're right now they're three and a quarter, 350. You
Mhm,
know, um, but people are, and this is in Connecticut. But it's still there's nothing out there to buy. People are just staying what they got. So that's why the market, I think, is slow for 203Ks and regular loans in general, you
Mhm.
know? There's
Is it
no distra used to be foreclosures where people got angry because 'cause they're foreclosed on, and they would do damage
mm,
to the properties. So, the lender wouldn't loan on a property that's needs a lot of repair. They'll steal the kitchen, rip the bathroom apart, sell the cabinets, they don't care. I had one instance years ago where the bank went by a property they're foreclosing on, and the homeowner's got a box truck loading in the cabinets, countertops, sinks, and he called the police. The lender went by and said, "We're foreclosing on." He said, "It's not your house; it's their house. They can do anything they want." Meanwhile,
wow.
he's watching them load all this stuff on the truck. So that becomes a K now, because there's no other way to finance it, and repairs.
How do as we kind of think about those different situations? How do realtors look at the 203K loan product? I know there's a lot of crazy ideas, or anything that kind of gets away from gets in between them and the sale. They kind of get a little nervous. Like,
But
how
I
is it
think
generally perceived?
a lot of them have problems with it. They think it's too much work, or it's not gonna, it's all this. There's that one step where I have to get in there.
Hmm.
It's not gonna close fast enough, and I mean they're waiving home inspections right now, and so the realtors are talking them out of it. They're doing a thing called walk and talk, which is
Walk and talk.
ridiculous. A thing called walk and talk. The home inspector go out and just tell them, well, that's bad. That could be bad. You can do this, and they take the notes and they leave. No
Wow.
liability responsibility. It's called walk and talk. I did meetings with the home because we're licensed home inspectors also.
Uh-huh.
In Connecticut, to be a HUD consultant, you have to be a licensed home inspector.
Hmm.
So it's a dual hat thing. So I go to the meetings all the time, and they're doing a thing called walk and talk now, which is it's just a waste. Then the homeowner buys the property, going by that, and all of a sudden they find that the furnace is no good, or many, many things. They find asbestos that nobody pointed out. I mean, they I mean, just then they're all angry, you know? Walk and talk, yeah, that's amazing. I just don't understand it.
As a HUD consultant, you mentioned the furnace there. Are you in a property that's being sold? Are you able to turn on the utilities? Are you advised not to turn them on, not to
If
test
they're
them?
turned off, I can't turn them on.
Okay.
And then the buyer would have to put it in their name to turn it on. They don't own the house, so they won't turn them on.
Do you test like the mechanical systems? Like, hey, it's on.
If it's on, I'll run the water. I'll make sure the furnace is running. I'll look at the heat covers, make sure that it's busted. Even if it's off, I get a lot of times. I just did one where gentleman bought a two-family. He just closed on it just recently. And I went down and walked the yep, yep, yep. Well, I want to put about 70,000 into it. So I go to the property. I said, down the basement. I said, come here. What? Look up. He looks up. I said, what's missing? The plumbing. Somebody stole all the copper. Look at your furnace.
Whoa.
Look at your boiler. See those two little green things there? Those are the pumps. They're laying on this floor. They stole all the copper off the boiler. We go upstairs. I said, look at the radiator. It's got a big hole in it. The heating system's no good in this house. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know I had no plumbing. They told me I couldn't turn anything on until I owned it. you know. So before I bought it, I pointed all these things. Now we're up to 130 or 140,000 in repairs. The heating system, the plumbing, you know. So well, I don't want to borrow all that. It's dump my house.
There's a definite need for the 203K loan program, especially when you think about the most of the homes being built in the 60s, and the housing supply just aging. I
It
want to say the
is.
statistic was half the homes in the US have exceeded their remaining economic life,
Oh yeah.
so they need some sort of repair or alteration made to them.
In
What are you going to do?
Connecticut, a lot of them are built in the 40s, and
Mhm.
late 30s and 40s and 50s. It's the mechanicals are no good. They have fuses, they have bad wiring. Just they have knob and tube all over the place. You just and people don't realize that we have to correct those things, and that costs money.
Yeah.
They think they're going to fix it for buy a two-family, fix it for 30,000, live on one floor and rent it and make a ton of money. Well, you got to fix these things. Then I realized the boiler is as old as I am. I'm 74.
Wow.
So it's like those are things I go into, because a lot of them won't have a home inspection when I go in. They think I'm doing a home inspection, and I'm not. I try to tell them this is not a home inspection. I'm going to look at everything, give you my best opinion, but this is not a home inspection. I highly recommend you have a home inspector come in, do a full blown home inspection before you move forward. That's up to them if they want to do it or not.
What's the what would you say the big differences are between a consultant doing a work write up and checking all the HUD minimum property requirements
Versus
versus hey having a full blown home inspection? What are the differences?
actually, I a home inspector will go through and open all the windows, check all the outlets, get underneath the sink. I don't do all that. I look at it and see one in the kitchen, we're taking it all out, put a new one in. I'll check them. Well, you need a GFI here, you need a GFI here, you need a smoke detector here. Where a home inspector will be much more thorough as he
Mm,
goes through it, and he gives you a full written report of everything that he thinks that needs further inspection, which is a common thing they all tell you.
mm.
Well, this is they've got some issues here. Recommend further inspection by a licensed heating contractor. That's their way out, so they cover their tail. But um, they give you a much more detailed report than I would. I'm just doing repair money. I'm not doing every little thing.
Now, would you, you've worn a lot of hats,
Mhm.
contractor, home inspector, HUD consultant.
I
I'm
got them
calling you
all.
next time I buy a house. Would you ever buy a home without a home inspection?
Personally,
Yeah,
I well,
buy.
I'm a home inspector, so I would do my own home inspection.
Well, would you put it
Let's
this
say if
way?
I didn't have all these hats,
Would
I'm
you
Joe
let a friend
Schmo.
of yours, or would you let any of your kids buy a home without a home inspection?
No,
Okay,
no.
ah,
I
that's
believe it's what do you're spending, and they're not that expensive in Connecticut.
mm,
$600,
that's not bad.
$500, $600.
Get a home warranty on top of it, and
I mean, it's
Bob's
the
your
way to
uncle.
go. I mean, if it's well worth. I guarantee you that home inspector will save you that $600
Wow.
because you'll go back and negotiate your price based on the deficiencies that the home inspector finds, and he will find deficiencies
Always,
without
always.
question. Without question.
Yeah, my dad always preached the home warranty. Always get a home warranty on top of it. Get the best one you can, and
If you can, yes. If
yeah,
you can, yes.
yeah. Well, here's a question I've kind of adapted for you being a HUD consultant. And usually I ask, construction lenders or draw administrators, like, hey, would you ever, go out and get a construction loan for yourself? So the question that I'm doing for you is, hey, if you were buying another home and it needed repairs, would you ever consider doing a 203K loan?
Sure would.
Sure you would.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great.
You
Some
know,
some
uh,
people answer it different ways.
I would absolutely consider one. It's not without a problem. If it needs, depending on the repairs, if
Mhm,
I mean, when you talked, every house can be repaired,
mhm.
even a brand new one. We were talking about this. Even a brand new house can use some repairs if they wanted to. And I try to explain this to the sometimes I'll do seminars for realtors.
Mhm.
The lender will put together a package, get the realtors and some of the brokers there, and we'll do it. We'll do it on 203Ks. And I try to explain to them it's just another tool in your pocket to sell properties. Needs repair. Even a new home. Somebody's buying a house, they just, they put in for Formica County, you want granite. I mean, you got to spend $5,000 to get into the FHA program. That's nothing today. $5,000 is nothing. So any house can use a 203K. Doesn't have to be a beat up piece of junk. It doesn't have to be a terrible looking house. It can be any house. And it's well worth it because you're not using your own savings. You have money for the construction and you get it done right away. And it's
Yeah, that's
done at the beginning. Well, I'll
one of
get to it next year. I'll do that 2 years
yeah.
from now. It never happens.
One of my favorite statistics go to that I was telling you earlier is the amount of one of our large clients ran this big, huge survey on people they had closed loans with and asked them, "Hey, if you had the opportunity to include one or more improvements with your mortgage, would you do it?" And 99.9% said yes, even in the situations where they were buying a brand new home that had never been lived in.
Sure, I
You know,
can believe that.
that statistic is just so powerful because you think of the difference between buying a home and buying your home, right? It's a real personal decision, and there's always something. It's the paint or the floor or the landscaping or that one little thing they wanted changed in the bathroom.
A
And
contractor tried. They're not custom builders; they're builders. They build a house and it's carpet. Well, you want wood floors. You're buying it, it's carpet. I'm not putting wood floors. And
yep,
also, I mean, there's like a new houses right down to any house. And I
perfect.
think everybody buying a house would want to do some sort of repair to their home.
Mhm,
I don't care what it is. Anybody buying any house would want to do some repairs.
mhm.
Whether they do it themselves and they'll never get around to it, or get it done and do it right at the beginning and you're done. That's my theory on
Yeah,
it. And they just gotta. Some people just don't understand it.
I love my little home projects that I get to work on, and I think my wife loves me a little bit more each time I finish one of them. But
I'm a builder. I never got nothing done. When I was a builder, I got nothing done. I
yeah,
still fix everybody else's house.
not sure how that works, but it's just the way it works.
Yeah,
All right, we got the final two questions coming your way.
sure.
If you had a magic wand, question number one, you had a magic wand, and you could wave that wand and change one thing about the 203k loan program. What would it be?
Oh, I got to think about it.
Oh,
I did give it some thought, and it's not. If I had to change one thing, I have to think about it. I really can't. I think the system works the way it is. There's nothing really I would change other than some of the things we talked about,
mhm,
contractors, whatever. But the product itself is a good product. I mean, I like the way it works. I think it's tuned in correctly.
mhm.
You know, um, I would more communicate. I wish the lender would give the contractor that 35 list of 35 items to pick rather than just doing build house.
Make sure they have the check ready to go when you show up. That was
Well,
the
yeah. I mean, inform them what's going on, what the process is.
give everybody walkie talkies to talk to throughout the entire project. That way they can all stay on the same page. All right, that was great. Question number two, the final question here of the podcast is: where did the 35 line item, form come from in HUD, and why do they use it?
I think it was when they first started the program, they pulled it from somewhere, and
And
it
it's
just stuck.
stuck.
It's
It's
stuck. And
stuck.
there's things in there, and I was thinking about this because we had mentioned it, and we're talking about things that you don't use, like shutters.
Yep.
But along the shore here, your insurance company wants you to put metal shutters over the windows for insurance purposes.
Mhm.
So that would be under that category. Caulking, might be commercial caulking, but we don't do commercial. So the caulking doesn't. So I think these things just stuck. I think the 35 categories pretty much covers everything if you expand out from them. I mean, you
Mhm.
got plumbing, heating, insulation, windows, doors, interior, sheetrocking, painting, decorating. Everybody says, "What's decorating?" That drapes? No, it's painting. Painting.
Ah. Isn't there a category for paint, though? Interior and exterior paint, two separate categories?
Exterior paint is in
Okay.
there. Interior paint falls under decorating.
No kidding.
Everybody
Okay.
wonders if that's drapes. I said, no, it's not drapes. Decorating is wallpaper, painting, things of that nature. That's decorating, we call it.
Well, then you see some of the repairs bids come from contractors. It's like, oh man, they're doing this, and how do I sort that out into the 35 categories? Do I take the paint from this bathroom and put it down here, and then just list? Do I start to
Right,
take and reassemble everything? Like,
right. They don't know how to break it. See, I got a system that'll do a room by room also under the 35 categories, which the lender wants. That's what
mhm.
they want. And they
I
want it
don't
to
think they, I
match.
don't think they know. I don't. I think it's a lot easier to look at an accurate budget that's just broken down.
I
However.
can do a room by room. My system can say, okay, the bathroom is going to cost. Here's all the toilets this much. It's all room by room.
Mhm.
not category, but the lender wants, it's got to be in the 35 categories. That's
I
what
I
they
think what
want.
frustrates me with the 35 items is you can't look at the draw request and know what the work is.
You got to go back to the scope of work.
Got to go back to the scope of work. You got to have some
Specification
sort of
repairs, you spell
translation
it all out.
method. The borrower signing something that's not transparent, and it requires more work of you, more work of like everybody has to do more work to get to the understanding, and it makes it hard to
Right.
differentiate. Well, hey, you got 5,000 for this, but it was for this and this within that 5,000. It's like, is that really necessary?
Right. Yeah, well, that's what they want, though. That's when
You
everything
never
goes,
know.
how much the toilet is, how much the sink is, how much is the tile floor, how much is the tub, toilet vanity, how much is the rough plumbing? You're putting a fan in, how much is the fan exhausted to the exterior? What do you got allotted for lighting? I mean, yeah, it's all broken down. So I have to go through the specification of repairs when I'm doing the draw. Because
Yeah.
it'll say a line item, $10,000. Okay, but that includes this. And I
Mhm.
have to go through and then I highlight those, and that's what I calculate to pay them out on the draw.
Oh, oh.
It's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, no. Thank you for jumping on here. This has just been a wealth of information, and I think I could do this all day.
Yeah.
It's just such a fun industry that we get to work in, and I
I
just
mean, I've been doing it for 35 years. I enjoy it. It's 95% it's fun, because I'm dealing with contractors and which I was one of, so they can't throw me a curve. But I enjoy it. I enjoy traveling. I like riding around and doing what I got to do. It's fine.
well, if lenders are lending in Connecticut and want to reach out and meet you and do some business with you, how can they get a hold of you?
They can call me. They can always call me on my phone, or they can just email me, robertcanty@comcast.net. Phone number is 203-671-1864.
Oh, that's awesome,
Those are the two
Bob.
ways they can get a hold of me.
That's
And I always pick up.
you. Oh, well, I'm going to test you now.
You go right ahead. The only time I don't answer my phone is if I'm with a client doing a draw or doing a
Mhm.
walkthrough. But leave a message, I'll call you right back within time, as soon as I can.
Oh, it's fantastic, Bob. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure
And
being here.
we'll go ahead and post your information up as well if people want to get in touch with you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, you have a great evening.
You too now.
Bye bye.
This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace independent professional judgment. Land Gorilla Inc. makes no representations, warranties, or promises for and disclaims any express or implied warranties related to content. Before acting on any information, you should consider the appropriateness of the information as it pertains to your unique business needs.